Chapter 3. As she tried to fall asleep that night, Leah's mind flashed to a memory of when she was 6 years old. She and her mother had been living in a trailer, and Don, her mother's second husband, had been gone for more than a month. Her mother had tucked bed covers around Leah. "Don't leave, Mama," Leah had pleaded. "I have to go to work, Leah, but all the doors will be locked and I'll be back before you get up in the morning for school." "Don't go," Leah wailed. "Hush, stop that. I don't want to go. But I have to if we want to eat next week. Close your eyes and go to sleep." Leah had lain stiff and unmoving in the dark, listening to her mother's car driving away into the night. Dogs howled, trees rustled in the wind, terror made her heart pound until she thought it might pop out of her chest. She was alone, totally alone. "Leah?" The sound of Rebecca's voice snapped Leah back to the present. "What?" she asked softly. "Will you read me a story?" I don't have a book." She remembered the library, but she doubted Rebecca would let her leave the room long enough to go there. "I have my book." Rebecca pointed to the shelf in the B-side table. Leah turned on the B-side light and retrieved the Bible storybook. "So which story do you want to hear?" "Read about Mary and the angel." Leah rarely attended church and wasn't very familiar with the Bible, but she flipped open the well-worn book and scanned the table of contents. She found the story and read about how an angel of the Lord came to a young virgin to announce that she would bear God's son. To Leah it had always sounded sort of far-fetched. She knew virgins didn't get pregnant and remain virgins. Still, the story must have soothed Rebecca because soon the little girl was asleep. Leah stole back to her own bed and crawled between the sheets. Her knee again felt sore, and a nagging ache in her lower back made her toss restlessly. But she must have slept because she was startled awake when someone slid a blood pressure cuff around her arm. "I'll be gone in a minute," the night nurse whispered. "I only have a broken finger," Leah grumbled, irritated that she was being awakened to have her arm squeezed and a thermometer thrust in her mouth. Didn't these people have anything better to do than pester patients at night? The night nurse performed the routine procedures on Rebecca, too. Once the nurse had left the room, Leah heard Rebecca whimper. She called out, "Hey, it's okay, I'm right over here. Can you see me?" "I'm scared, Leah." Leah thought about getting up and going over to the child, but her back was sore and a draining fatigue was sapping her strength. "Do you want me to tell you a story?" "Can you tell me about Abraham and Isaac?" I'm afraid I don't know that one. How about Snow White?" she offered, reminding herself to leave out the scary parts about the witch. "Who?" Rebecca asked. Her question surprised Leah. She thought every little girl had seen the Disney version of the fairy tale. "How about Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty?" "Who are they?" Now Leah was at a loss. How could Rebecca not have heard these famous stories? "Never mind. How about I tell you about where I used to live in Texas?" "Is that far away?" "Sure is." Leah started her story describing the cowboys and Indians of legends, and wished she paid more attention in history class. In no time, Rebecca drifted off to sleep. Leah slept too, but she woke up when she heard someone come into the room. Not another checkup, she thought, moaning to herself. How did they expect a person to get well when the nurses kept waking her up all night long? But the nurse didn't come to her bed. She went to Rebecca's. Through sleepy eyes, Leah watched the woman smooth the sheets and tuck in the blankets around the sleeping child. The movements were whisper soft, and she seemed so caring, so gentle, that a peaceful feeling washed over Leah. She was suddenly glad she wasn't alone in the farmhouse. At least in the hospital, she could be near other people. The nurse stood silently beside Rebecca's bed, and Leah drifted off to sleep. She was awakened the next morning, not by the nurses, but by doctors making rounds. Dr. Hauser said, "Good morning, Leah. How are you feeling today?" "Tired. Nurses kept coming in and out all night long." He smiled. "Taking vital signs is hospital routine. I'm afraid I want you to meet a colleague of mine." He stepped aside, and another doctor peered down at her. "I'm Dr. Thomas, an orthopedist," the man said. "I'm a bone specialist, and I've been called in to consult on your case." "What's wrong with me?" she asked the tall, slim doctor. He smiled reassuringly. "That's what we're going to find out. I've got a telephone conference scheduled with your parents this afternoon." "Neil's not my father," Leah interrupted. "Sorry," Dr. Thomas said. "Anyway, Dr. Hauser got your mother's approval to run some tests on you." "What kind of tests?" Leah said, starting to feel uneasy. "Blood work, of course, but also a CT bone scan." "What's that? Will it hurt?" "It's a kind of X-ray that gives us a three-dimensional look at the inside of your body, and no, it doesn't hurt." "Why would you want to see my bones?" to see what you're made of, he said with a twinkle in his eye. Sugar and spice and everything nice, she shot back, making him laugh. She quickly added, Dr. Hauser took an x-ray of my finger yesterday. He said it was broken. What else is there to see? The x-ray showed that there was a small hole in the bone. The hole weakened the finger and caused it to break. I want more x-rays to confirm that finding, and I want to evaluate the condition of other bones in your body. Neither doctor looked much concerned, which made Leah feel calmer. So does this mean I'll be stuck in the hospital? At least for a few days, Dr. Thomas said. You've been staying by yourself at home, haven't you? She'd been staying by herself off and on since she was 6, but she rarely told anyone that. People might get the impression that her mother was neglectful. She wasn't, but she was busy with her own life. I can take care of myself, Leah told the doctors. Mom's on her honeymoon, but she'll be back before Christmas. And we can reach her by phone, Dr. Hauser answered his colleague. Dr. Thomas flipped open Leah's charts. You told Dr. Hauser you've been tired lately? Sort of, but I've been busy too. I mean, this fall we moved up here. Mom got married, and I started a new school. Any other aches and pains? He wrote as he talked. My knee's sore and my back too. Where? She placed a hand against the small of her back, right here. Down deep, I think maybe I twisted it or something. Dr. Thomas examined her, kneading her spine and manipulating her knee. She squirmed because the areas were sore and felt bruised. Finally, he said, Someone will come up later and take you down to X-ray, and we'll see you again on rounds tomorrow morning. When they were gone, Leah looked over at Rebecca, who was staring at her. Did they wake you up with all their talking? I want my mama. Leah wanted hers too, in a way. She smiled and said, I'm sure she'll be back today for a visit. Rebecca's lower lip began to tremble. Leah struggled out of bed and padded across the floor to Rebecca's bedside. The child's face still looked feverish, and her arm looked redder and more swollen. The IV bag was nearly empty. Leah wondered when Rebecca's doctor would be in to see her. How's about breakfast? She asked, hoping to distract her. I think I hear the cart coming down the hall. Leah stopped talking because Rebecca didn't look interested. Her small shoulders began to shake, and sobs escaped from her mouth. Instinctively, Leah put her arms around the girl. Oh, Rebecca, don't cry, she begged, feeling helpless. She saw the nurse call the button and reached for it, but suddenly a male hand clamped over hers, and a strong, firm voice boomed, What are you doing to our sister?